How's it going, Post fam? Today we are diving back into this 2-video series where I'm breaking down the vocals for my recent song Walk Away, and I'm teaching you guys how I process vocals to make it sound professional and make it sound like a full finished track. So in the first video I showed you how to mix a lead vocal, and so if you haven't watched that, definitely watch that video before watching this. I explain in detail all the processing that I do. I'm not going to do as much explaining on processing in this video, but more just like layering and getting the fullness of your track through other vocals. Without further ado, let's get into this project. So this is what we're working with here. So let's start with the pre-chorus, and I'll show you guys how I do the basic doubling. So as you can see here, we have 2 takes. Basically, the idea with this is to make the vocal sound just really wide and full and have more energy in the track. And you want to have it as seamless as possible. So this is what it sounds like with the lead vocal. So basically what I do a lot of the times is I'll have the vocalist record several takes of the same exact thing and try to get her to sing it in the exact same way. In this case, it's Annelisa who was featured on Walk Away, if you didn't already know that. And so with these, I have them panned left and right. Right now, these are actually bounced as process files, so they already have the effects on them. And so it's left and right. Usually I just use this. It's already printed with the pan on it, but usually I'll just pan it like around 50 or 60 or 70%. It really depends on what I want for the track. I don't really often do 100% left and right, but you can do it as much as you want. It just depends on how wide you want them to be. I have the doubled vocals routed to the same channel as the lead vocal, and so I have them being processed by the same effects, and then I'll record them in place so that they're easy to handle. And that's what I did in this case. So I have these both routed to a new channel now, channel 13. So they have all the effects of the lead vocal, which you'll see in detail in the other video. And now I just have a simple EQing out a lot of the low mids and mid frequencies. I like to do that with doubling so that you're getting a lot of the wideness with the high frequencies, and then it's not as crowded and muddy in the mids and lows. So I do a lot of EQing in that area with doubles. So one thing that's really important about doubling is you want the pitch and the timing to be as tight as possible. And so I do that with new tone. I'll go through new tone and I will pitch the vocal exactly like I did in the last video once again. When I do timing, I'll often just do it in the playlist here. So let me show an example of what I do. So like right here, as you can see, this isn't perfectly lined up. It was good enough for this, that's why it doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna show you what I usually do. So I'll just cut on each side, and then I'll use the middle scroll thing on my mouse, and then hold down shift, and then when you scroll, you can just see it just goes right in place like that, and now they're perfectly lined up. And so you kind of just go through the whole thing and make sure that they're all lined up with the lead vocal and all happening at the same time. And they all have auto-tune on it too, so that's how it keeps in the pitch consistency. You know, I want you all alone. And there's a good doubled vocal. Another thing I did in this song particularly was I had a vocoder. And that's just a really cool way to add energy to a track. I have a separate video on that as well where I explain exactly how I do vocoders. And so I will link that in the description of this video as well so you can see how to do that. So moving on to the chorus here. If you could just walk away, yeah, I wouldn't. I normally have sidechain on the vocals, but it's not in this project. But let me just show you the individual things that are happening here. So we have the lead vocal. If you could just walk away. And then we have 3 takes here. If you could just walk away. Which are basically just like the doubles where I have her sing the same thing. And then I have this other file where it's like, if you could just. It's processed in place, but it has already the 2 takes into one audio file here. So all those together sound like this. If you could just walk away. Just making it very wide and full, and I have them all routed to the same channel here. And this is what they sound like without effects. If you could just walk away. And so I just have some EQ here. I took the volume down a bit, that's why it's down here. But taking out some low mids, a little bit of just notching out little frequencies here and there. And then I'm compressing about like 3 dB. Then I have a de-esser, which is de-essing quite a bit to like just really compress the high end so it's not going to be really harsh on your ears with like the S's and stuff. And so I have that de-essed quite a bit, and then I make up for it a little bit by adding some of those frequencies back with this EQ, shelf EQ. And then I have a doubler, which basically takes the source audio that it's giving you and pans 1 left and 1 right, or in this case there's 2 left and 2 right, and then slightly changes the pitch. So it's detuned a little bit. So it gives it that really wide feel. And it just, for this, I already had like 4 or 5 tracks, vocal tracks happening. And so when you double that even more, it just sounds like there's more people singing. So it just sounds like a giant group. And then just some more EQ here, and then a compressor. One thing to note about background vocals is you can get away with a lot more compression. So I generally smash the compression a lot on the background vocals because the lead vocal, you don't want to compress too much. You want to just have it just right. But with the background vocals, it makes them really consistent and it really brings out the consonants, the cool sounds of the voice. And so when you compress stuff a lot, if you could just walk away, it sounds really good with the lead. And then I have these all routed to the same delays and reverbs just to make it easy. And then I have this octave of myself singing. And this is the same exact technique where I'm just like putting the same vocal chain on these and penning them left and right, and then just doing a little bit more EQ in this channel, taking out the low mids. And together with all these vocals, it just makes it a lot thicker. If you could just walk away. So it's case by case with every song, whatever you're making, but this song has a really energetic chorus, and so I wanted the vocals to be really big and stacked, and that's why I put the octave underneath it as well, just to kind of add beefiness to the vocal. And I have all these other doubles and stuff to make it sound like a gang vocal, and they're all lined up and they're all pitched the same so that they're not stepping on each other. And I also have the vocoder in the chorus as well. If you could just walk away, yeah. If you could just walk away. And so all these layers together just make the vocal very thick and very full. So in this song, there's actually not very many harmonies going on. Actually, she didn't sing any harmonies. I only sang the harmonies on this track. I do the same technique, like I said, with like the doubling. I process them both and then pan them left and right and then add a little bit more EQ. And so for this one in the pre-chorus, oh, I know, you know, I want you all alone, but then I don't. And they're all going through the same reverbs and delays. And so together they all sound like this. Oh, I know, you know. And then I also have them in the second chorus, which just adds more energy to the track compared to the first chorus. If you could just walk away, yeah, I wouldn't even have. And I just kind of messed around with EQ a bit. So I took out a lot of the low frequencies and just kind of like you kind of mess around to find what feels good. It's going to depend for each track how you EQ stuff, but a lot of times I'm taking out those low mids because they tend to muddy up a mix. If you could just walk away, yeah. If you could just walk away, yeah. Yeah, so that's my technique for doubling. That's what I did for this song. That's generally what I do for a lot of pop vocals. Messing around with doubling, just making it really wide. And it makes a really big difference in your track. One more really cool thing is the ad-libs in this song. And basically, I just had her sing a ton of different takes of just her kind of freestyling, just different ad-libs. If you could just walk away. So good. Yeah, so what I'm doing with those, it's really just going through the exact same effects as the lead vocal, and it just adds so much energy to the end of the track. Usually, like the ad-lib is a similar volume as the lead vocal. You just kind of have to have the singer do some ad-libs and then just kind of place them where you think they sound good. And yeah, I just generally put them through the same effects as the lead vocal. Okay, so those are the doublings and harmonies for this song. I'm going to go through a minute and show you all of the special effects and extra things to make the track more flavorful. So the first thing is this delay that I added in the first verse. I don't want to see you and all your So this is what it sounds like by itself. And basically what I do there is I go to the lead vocal. So what I'll do is I'll press R. Then I'll press the record button here and then press play. And then you'll get this little snippet of an audio file that just records what we just heard. And that's exactly what this is here. So without effects, it sounds like this. And then one by one, what I did here is I have a stereo enhancer and then a little bit of a chorus effect here. I'm not really sure why I did this because there's a ton of reverb and you can't really tell anyway. I have this really big reverb all the way wet on it. And then I have an EQ taking out some low mids, and then an engineer's filter, which is just taking a portion of the frequencies and filtering them out. And little stuff like that just adds a lot of dimension to your track, and I just really love doing little reverb delay throws like that. I don't wanna see you and all your friends. It's really subtle, but it adds a lot. And then going up to the pre-chorus here, I have this low vocal. You can do the same thing like I showed you before and just record the one phrase, and then you can pitch it down here with FL Studio's thing. But what I did specifically for this one is I used auto-tune. I used auto-tune to pitch it down an octave because there's a different tone that it has with that, and I really liked it. And then I just have EQ and a reverb on there, and that's just simply what that is. Basic. Then right here I have this like reversed reverb thing. And what I do with those are both the same technique where I just like, I'll take the vocoder like this. I'll add a reverb. And then I'll just record that in Edison. And then basically you just grab that little section, you delete this part, then reverse this, alt left, and now it sounds like this. And so that's what I did for the vocal and for the vocoder, and they just kind of like bring that into the pre-chorus. Yeah, little stuff like that just adds a lot. Some more cool stuff is in the second verse here. Let me just play it. Staring at the floor. I don't wanna feel the way I did before. And that's a cool trick that I like doing sometimes. It's just like a filtered, distorted delay throw. So if I have this lead vocal in that channel, I just switched it to channel 37. And so everything that's going through here has manipulator, which is manipulating the formant. And then a wave shaper, compressor, and then this multi-band compressor, which is doing the same thing as the engineer's filter, where it's only playing the frequencies and this purple thing. So it's just the mid frequencies. And then a bunch of reverb. And I just like repeated the words after she sang them, and they go through that filtering process. Staring at the floor. I don't wanna feel the way I did before. And one more cool thing I did is at the bridge here. Just walk away, you make me. And this is just a subtle little thing, but I added a giant reverb onto her last syllable of walk away. Walk away, you make me. And basically I do the same thing where I just take a little snippet and I'll run it through a giant reverb and then record it so it's a separate thing, and then just add it on like that. Once again, just adds cool little extra things to the track to make it more spacious. So just walk away, you make me honestly question. Yeah, and that's mostly it for this track. Those are all the fun little tricks and little extra things that I add just to make the whole track more interesting and more professional. And so my hope for you is that you'll be able to just take some of these ideas and then be creative and add your own little fun things to your tracks. Just get creative. Like I like to do things in a separate project, like you can see here, so that I have way more room and space to just have it separated from the production and just come up with new ideas to make the vocal just sound more interesting. So yeah, I really hope these things were helpful for you today. I hope you feel empowered to create your own vocals. It's honestly a really fun process. I love processing vocals. It's a really special, different part of the process that can make a really, really big difference in your song. If you guys aren't already, follow me on Instagram and TikTok. And if you're not already subscribed, dude, subscribe. It's not that hard. And I will see you in the next video. Peace.